Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees.
Vande.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class, which is from Canto 2, Chapter 4, and Text 24. So this morning we're very fortunate to have from ISKCON Philadelphia His Grace Dronacharya Prabhu to give the class. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
And it's all yours.
It's great to be with the Harrisburg family this morning. Hope you're all having a good Monday morning. We'll start off by chanting Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashotatara Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki.
Yay.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashotatara Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Maharaj Ki.
Yay.
Anantakoti Vaishnavandi Ki.
Yay.
Amacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki.
Yay.
Prams Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki.
Yay.
Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki.
Yay.
Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki.
Yay.
Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki.
Yay.
Jagannath Puri Dham Ki.
Yay.
Ganga Maya Ki.
Yay.
Yamuna Maya Ki.
Yay.
Bhakti Devi Ki.
Yay.
Tulsi Devi Ki.
Yay.
Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki.
Yay.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki.
Yay.
Nitya Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki.
Yay.
Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Wo.
Gloriously assembled devotees.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories the assembled devotees.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories the assembled devotees.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories, all glories, all glories. The lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
All glories to Shri Shri
Namo Vishnu
Guru.
Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Tirtha Swami Niti Namane Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shuddhamane Shri Gaura Purana Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Iti Namane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shrimati Paschachate Shatari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, let's first offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Nara Narayan Rishis, the supermost human beings, unto the author, Vyasadeva, and to the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati. Our regular attendance in classes in Srimad Bhagavatam and rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart becomes almost completely destroyed, and devotional service is established as an irrevocable fact. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 4, Text 24. Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedashe Apurganam Ayam Somya Yan Muktam Buruha Savam Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedhase Prapurganam Ayam Somya Yan Muktam Buruha Savam Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Prapurganam Ayam Somya Yan Muktam Buruha Savam.
Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedhase Vapurgyanam Ayam Somya Yanmukha Buruha Savam. Hare Krishna.
नमस्तस्मै भगवते वासुदेवाय वेदसे पापुर्ज्ञानम् अयं सौम्या यन्मुखं गुरुः
Okay, we'll go to the word for word. Nama, my obeisances. Tasmai, unto him. Bhagavate, unto the personality of Godhead. Vasudevaya, unto Vasudev, or his incarnations. Vedhase, the compiler of Vedic literatures. Papu, drunk. Jnanam, knowledge. Ayam, this Vedic knowledge. Somya, the devotees, especially the consorts of Krishna, Lord Krishna. Yat, from whose Mukta Bur Uha, the lotus-like mouth. As Avam, nectar from his mouth. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of Vasudeva, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarian transcendental knowledge, dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. Purport. In pursuance of the specific utterance Vedas say, or the compiler of the system of transcendental knowledge, Srila Sridhar Swami has commented that the respectful obeisances are offered to Srila Vyasadeva, who is an incarnation of Vasudeva. Srila Jiva Goswami has agreed to this, but Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has made a further advance, namely that the nectar from the mouth of Lord Krishna is transferred to his different consorts, and thus they learn the finer arts of music, dance, dressing, decorations, and all such things which are relished by the Lord. Such music, dance, and decorations enjoyed by the Lord are certainly not anything mundane, because the Lord is addressed in the very beginning as para, or transcendental. This transcendental knowledge is unknown to the forgotten conditioned souls. Srila Vyasadeva, who is an incarnation of the Lord, has compiled Vedic literatures to revive the lost memory of the conditioned souls about their eternal relation with the Lord. One should therefore try to understand the Vedic scriptures, or the nectar transferred by the Lord to his consorts in the conjugal humor from the lotus-like mouth of Vyasadeva or Shukadev. By gradual development of transcendental knowledge, one can rise to the stage of transcendental arts of music and dance displayed by the Lord in his Rasa Leela. But without having Vedic knowledge, one can hardly understand the transcendental nature of the Lord's rasa dance and music. The pure devotees of the Lord, however, can equally relish the nectar in the form of the profound philosophical discourses, and in the form of kissing by the Lord in the rasa dance, as there is no mundane distinction between the two. Om Agyanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The text once again. I offer my respectful obeisances under Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of Vasudeva, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarian transcendental knowledge. The pure devotees drink up the nectarian transcendental knowledge, dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. Such a beautiful verse and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. A couple of things really stuck out to me in this purport. Starting at a very maybe simple level of our understanding, and then going quite advanced, all within a paragraph. It's pretty remarkable how Srila Prabhupada has compiled this. What I remember when I first learned about the activities of a advanced devotee, that they relish the hearing of Krishna's transcendental pastimes. And they continue to do this. And this process of Shravanam and Kirtanam, hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord, actually never stops, but it actually continues in its purified state. And this is unlike the different processes of the yoga system and other branches that are outlined in Vedic literature, as well as other religious practices that we find around the world. A unique characteristic of bhakti is that it continues even after the stage of liberation. At the stage of the process of karma yoga, jnana yoga, in their two big general categories that are quite vast, they can bring you to a stage of becoming free from the dualities of this world. Bringing to the point of liberation. You can understand that you're not your body, that you're spirit soul, that there is a spiritual, a universal or a eternal spiritual substance, and that the spirit soul is part of that spiritual substance, and that we have no real business being here in this material world because it's incompatible. And the process to get free from this material world is outlined in the processes of karma yoga and jnana yoga. But when you get to the point of liberation, then what do? You don't have to perform karma yoga anymore. You don't have to perform jnana yoga anymore. Because the goal of these processes is to get liberation. But what do you do in the liberated state? And that's why in bhakti can do all those things that karma and jnana have done. It can get you to the liberated state. But it also addresses, once I get to that liberated state, what do I do? And the answer is, you continue to serve. But you serve without false ego. You serve in your original spiritual Krishna consciousness. In this purport by Srila Prabhupada, he says, Srila Vyasadeva, as an incarnation of the Lord, he compiled the Vedic literature to revive the lost memory of the conditioned souls about their eternal relationship with the Lord. This is a very important point. Our Krishna consciousness is embedded within us. It is our spiritual DNA. What we are experiencing in this material world is a lost memory of that original Krishna consciousness. And the process of bhakti yoga is to revive that lost memory. How do you revive the lost memory? By introducing those things that you have forgotten about. Right now, our conditioned nature is to think about me as the center. And each of us, every living entity, is a me. And thus we have all these different centers all over the universe, where everybody wants everybody else to revolve around them. And it just doesn't work. There's always conflict. My expectations and your ability to meet them are not in alignment, hardly ever. What I want and what you want are also often in conflict with one another. There's no harmony in desire that everybody has. Unless we reach so many conflicts, so much dissatisfaction. In addition to that, whatever enjoyment that we are able to extract from this world, we realize that it's good for a couple of days and then it dwindles and it vanishes. And then we search after more of it and then it dwindles and it goes away. That is the business that we feel that we need to be dedicated to in this world. Self-preservation, preservation of my family, security of my assets, and accumulation of more assets. But when our lost memory is revived, it's this great feeling of awakening. And I believe that we've all felt this in some capacity or another. This awakening that comes and understanding that actually I have a lost connection with the Lord. And when you feel elements of that being reestablished, the inner joy that is produced from that experience is incomparable to anything that you get, an experience you get in the condition in our conditional lives. When you have this experience that this all makes sense, for some reason I feel like I'm not learning this for the first time. I feel like I've forgotten it, and now I'm remembering it. When you have that moment, it confirms that actually this is embedded in me. It is deep down. It's just covered over. It's covered over by my material desires. Now, how do I begin to shed those material desires? So I get down to that spiritual DNA, which is who I really am. And in the process of bhakti, there is austerity, there is charity, there is penance. But the idea is to transform our desires by dovetailing them into the service of the Lord. Rishikesha Rishikanam Sevanam Bhaktir Uttama. By using our senses, which is the body that Krishna has given us, to engage them in the service of the master of the senses, we can become free from our bodily designation, transforming our lust into love for Lord Krishna. That is the process of bhakti. And when we get to that point where we reestablish our love for the Lord, then we have no business being in this material world anymore, unless it's by the desire of Lord Krishna and the spiritual master that we remain in order to help deliver other living beings. That same message that was conveyed, that we have gotten. But when you experience this, when our pure love for Krishna has been reawakened, and we're no longer living in the dense darkness of ignorance of this material world, what are those activities? It's bhakti yoga. It's continuing to hear about Krishna and serve Krishna and speak about Krishna, remembering Krishna at all times. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 10:9, Machita Magada Prana, Vodayantas Parasparam, Kathayantas Chamam Nityam, Tushanti Cha Ramanti Cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees They dwell in me, and their lives are fully devoted to my service. And they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. There is no limit to Krishna, and thus there's no limit to the topics and the joy that's derived from discussing about Krishna. If we ever feel tired of talking about Krishna, if we ever feel like, okay, I've had enough, that is our own limitation. It's not that there is not a, we've read the book comes to an end, book closed, we're done with that. Krishna's pastimes are unlimited. It's just that our taste for hearing about Krishna is hampered by our material conditioning. Srila Rupa Goswami compares this in the Upadeshamrita, Nectar of Instruction, to the condition of jaundice, where when one takes something that is sweet and due to an imbalance in the body, things taste very bitter to the tongue. But yet it's sugar and honey, and it should be very sweet. The experience of it is that it doesn't taste sweet to me. It doesn't mean that it's not sweet. It's our perception of it that isn't, because of our disease condition. Rupa Goswami, he tells us that the way that one cures this condition of jaundice is to continue to take products that are sweet. And by doing so, that imbalance will be transformed back into its original state. So there are times when one may experience maybe not the sweetness of Krishna Katha, the experience of Hari Kirtan. We may choose to remember other things. That is just an indication that we have this jaundice-like state, that the eternal connection with Krishna that we have has not been fully uncovered. There may be glimmers of it, there may be experiences of it, but it's not fully there. And if that's the case, it's okay. Because the process of bhakti yoga, of sadhana bhakti, where one has a regulative lifestyle to encourage us to reawaken our lost love for God, we follow that path. Waking in the morning, chanting Hare Krishna, worshiping the deity, offering foodstuffs to the deity, having good association with other devotees, avoiding gossip, aparad, brahmya kata, and gradually substituting the time spent doing those activities with topics learning about Krishna. And it's hard. I know it's hard. Because that's where our minds want to go. We want to hear what the other person has to say, especially if it's about putting down somebody else. We want to hear what the other person has to say, especially if it can be used and we feel that it takes the pressure and relief off of us and puts the pressure on somebody else. But this type of material consciousness will only drag us down deeper and deeper and away from our relationship with Krishna. The joy and the nectar that is derived when we are in that solitary place within our minds, where we say, we've had enough of this material existence. This isn't making my life any better. I just need to absorb myself in Krishna's service and hearing about Krishna. And even if we surrender for a short moment with that mindset, that relief that we get, that intense sense of satisfaction, it's incomparable to anything that we get here in this material world. It's different than the relief we get about hearing about somebody else's miseries instead of having to deal with our own miseries for that time period. It's like it's described as like you maybe like some poison ivy or a mosquito bite or a rash that really itches. And then you put some ointment on for a short period of time, or you maybe even scratch it, and the sensation goes down for a short period of time, and you feel relief. But then it comes back again, and the pain is back again. The irritation is back again. That is not like spiritual life. It's not flickering like that. It is always existing. We just have to tap into it. So the characteristics of a pure devotee, is that they're fully engaged themselves in the loving service of the Lord. Their minds cannot be diverted from the lotus feet of the Lord, and their talks are solely on the transcendental subject matters. Symptoms of the pure devotee, are described in this verse. I'm reading from the purport of F10.9. Devotees of the Supreme Lord are 24 hours daily engaged in glorifying the qualities and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Their hearts and souls are constantly submerged in Krishna, and they take pleasure in discussing him with other devotees. Doesn't that sound wonderful? There'll come a time for all of us where we'll be given the choice that we have the Bhagavatam and all the vast literatures that Srila Prabhupada has translated for us and the acharyas have written and commented upon, and they're sitting there for us. And then we have the TV, and we have the telephone, and we have the computer, and that's sitting in another corner. And we have to choose that, where do I want my consciousness to be? Can I be fully satisfied sitting here on this mat or in this chair and just reading about Krishna and speaking about Krishna with others? That is the activities of the pure devotee. I wanted to also talk about this part about Lord Krishna and how he's transferred the nectar that has come from his lotus mouth, and how it manifests itself through his devotees. I thought this was extremely, I've never read or heard this before, so I'm just trying to process it in my mind. Maybe there can be some comments on it as well. But I'll read this again, what Srila Prabhupada said. They said, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has made a further advance, namely that the nectar from the mouth of Lord Krishna is transferred to his different consorts, and thus they learn the finer arts of music, dance, dressing, decorations, and all such things which are relished by the Lord. Such music, dance, and decorations enjoyed by the Lord are certainly not anything mundane, because the Lord is addressed in the very beginning as para, or transcendental. When we dedicate ourselves to the hearing process, we allow ourselves to be trained and disciplined in transcendental knowledge. And through the medium of the spiritual master, as well as the super soul and the devotees. Our nature in this world is that we want to be independent. That's why we're here in this material world. We want to be independent from Krishna. As I mentioned, we're all these little me's all over the universe, thinking that we're the center of it all. We do have independence, just as Krishna has independence. But our independence is only to be able to choose who we serve. Not that we were actually independently sufficient or self-sufficient. When we hear, we allow our consciousness to be trained in transcendental knowledge. This is why Srila Vyasadeva has brought forth and compiled the Vedic literatures. For our benefit. Now, it says here that Lord Krishna, this transcendental nectar that is coming from the mouth of Lord Krishna, which is not different than the Vedic literatures, it manifests itself in the form of Krishna's consorts, the gopis, and his pure devotees, in the activities of the finer arts of music, dance, dressing, and decorations. That these are all manifesting from the direction and inspiration given by Lord Krishna. And it also means that this is what they're intended to do in their pure state. That in the liberated state, does music, dance, dressing, and decorations, do they take place? Absolutely. In fact, what we experience here in the form of the fine arts, they're all just a perverted reflection of what is meant to be offered to Krishna in the spiritual world. We use it for our own sense gratification. But these can be used in the service of the Lord, because they're ultimately coming from the service of the Lord through the transcendental wisdom that is produced from his lotus mouth. Srila Prabhupada says, by gradual development of transcendental knowledge, one can rise to the transcendental arts of music and dance displayed by the Lord in his Rasa Lila. And he also says that basically profound philosophical discourses, and in the form of kissing of the Lord of the Gopis in the Rasa dance, there's no mundane distinction between the two. That this transcendental knowledge that is coming from Krishna is absolute in all respects. And this is being relished in a different capacity by those in the liberated state, those that are in the purified state. They're relishing the transcendental knowledge differently than those that are in the conditioned state. And that this increase of understanding and how it expands and manifests beyond our limited capacity of our mental understanding, and elevates it all the way up to the various rasas and flavors of engagement, of service that are experienced in the spiritual world. Now, in our current state, we're not really encouraged to focus on certain pastimes, such as the Rasa Lila. You know, we hear about it, Srila Prabhupada writes about it in the Krishna book. These have, this, you know, it has taken place. Krishna, these are the most celebrated of Leelas, Lord Chaitanya, as a sannyasi, would relish these pastimes. Shukadev Goswami relished these pastimes and they're there for us. But at the same time, there's no distinction between the transcendental knowledge, which is spoken in terms of how to get out of this material world, breaking our bonds in this of our conditioned nature. When we adopt this level of transcendental knowledge, which is equally coming from the lotus-like mouth of the Supreme Lord and manifesting itself in the form of the Vedic literatures for our benefit, will rid us of our material infection. That will be our prerequisite for understanding the sweetest and most intimate pastimes of the Lord. Otherwise, we run the risk of becoming sahaja, or taking the easy path. Overstepping and being in a situation that's beyond our qualification. Because ultimately, you have to be invited into Krishna's inner circle. That invitation is available for everybody. But there are prerequisites, there's qualification. And if one superficially wants to be able to open up a book and feel that they have understood Krishna's pastimes from a mundane level, I don't have to go through the process. I can just jump right to the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam and right to the sections that my mind is drawn to. I don't have to follow the prescriptions given by the spiritual master. I can do as I want to do. I have the freedom to do so. Krishna is not obligated to reveal himself. Krishna reveals himself to a sincere devotee. And that's up to Krishna's choice. So we have to be careful how we approach these transcendental subject matters. And it's a powerful statement when it says the pure devotees of the Lord, however, can equally relish the nectar in the form of profound philosophical discourses and in the form of the kissing of the Lord in the rasa dance. And there's no mundane distinction between the two. Okay, I'll stop here and see if there's any comments or questions or reflections on the subject matter today. Thank you all for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anybody have any questions or reflections?
Hare Krishna, Dronacharya. Please accept my humble obeisance, O
Hare
God,
Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Such
Please
a
accept my
wonderful
request.
class. Jai. Such a wonderful class. A lot of key points that you mentioned. I think one key point that really struck out for me is when you used the word compatible. And I think that was a very nice word that you used. No, incompatible. That's the word you used, incompatible. And I was really, meditating on that point that, we try to make ourselves compatible in the material world. And the more we try to be compatible in the material world, the more we become incompatible. And I really liked how you said that. Very, very strong point, Dronacharya. And what I would like to ask is, we work so hard, we struggle so much in this material world to make it compatible to us, or we become compatible to the material world, but we just keep running into, dead ends, lack of a better word. And we still don't give up. You know what I mean? We still try to make ourselves compatible. So when, Prabhu, when can we realize, or trying to see how to phrase my question. How long do we keep on doing that? Or when do we stop and say, no, I'm not compatible with the material world. I should find something like what will it take? Because we do it lifetimes after lifetimes.
Yeah. Yeah. When we hear about this, that we've been going through this cycle, life after life after life after life. But this particular life, we can't control what happened in the past. Mistakes that we've made. We have to move on, and we should take inspiration from the fact that, or reflection from the fact that we, have not been able to perfect our lives in previous lifetimes. And what we were given, what opportunities we were given, we don't really know. But we do know what we can have control over is how we approach this lifetime. And we've been given the greatest of fortune of coming in contact with pure devotees of the Lord. Those that have dedicated their lives fully to the service of the Lord, who have given their lives for the service of engaging others in the service of the Lord, who have made an ultimate sacrifice to help spread this Krishna consciousness movement for the betterment of mankind, of humankind. And they've left behind and are currently speaking about the transcendental glories of the Lord. So we have a decision of, what life we want to live. Do we want to be absorbed in that life, or do we want to be absorbed in a life of the mundane? And that decision we have to make, and a lot of us, we struggle with it. We struggle with kind of, I want both. I want both. I still want to pursue my material ambitions and securities and asset accumulation and be happy that way. And I also want a Krishna conscious life as well. And that's where the incompatibility arises. What is our priority? Where have we placed our time and our energy? What do we value the most? If we really want that life, and as you said, we keep going back and forth, we have to pray really hard and sincerely to the Lord, pray to the deity, pray to the super soul within our hearts, pray to the spiritual master. I don't have this attraction. I've been given this life, I've been given this great opportunity, and I feel like I may be wasting it. I don't feel like I have the strength to even overcome it. But I know it's the right thing for me. I know this is how, at the end of my life, I want to be fully focused on Krishna service. And in order to be fully focused on Krishna service at the end of my life, I have to be fully focused on Krishna service throughout my life. Give me direction, give me guidance. Please help me, Lord. And when we pray sincerely like this, Krishna will come to our aid in many various ways that we don't know. It could come through situations that Krishna creates. It can come through other people, the Lord's direct intervention in our life. But in this all, we can't do it ourselves. We need Krishna's assistance. We need the spirit, and that assistance comes in the form of the spiritual master. The orders of the spiritual master, the direction of the spiritual master, and his representatives, the assembly of devotees as well. The choice, though, from our side, we have to understand what that choice is. How long will it take? When will we stop? Really, when we've come to terms with the fact that I've had enough of this. I choose this life over that life. It doesn't, but understanding our own limitations, we're not going to be able to do it ourselves. We need the grace of the Lord to help carry us through. Krishna Tumarahana. When we go before Krishna and say, Krishna Tumarahana. Krishna, I am yours. Do we pray like this? How many of us actually pray? I know we chant Hare Krishna. Sometimes it becomes more ritualistic that chanting Hare Krishna is a prayer, and it's the Maha Mantra. It is the largest, the supreme, the most inclusive of all prayers. Krishna, please engage me in your service. But do we go before the deity of the Lord and say, Krishna, please help me. Krishna, I'm so fallen. I can't do this on my own. I need your help. I need your support. Opening up our heart, revealing our limitations to Krishna. I want this, but I can't do it. I have weakness of mind. I have weakness of heart. This should be adopted in our lives. Then Krishna knows, that my devotee is calling out to me. He wants to go deeper. And then Krishna reciprocates. Krishna's waiting for this to happen. He's waiting for this moment. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for stressing the importance of prayer. Many of us hear and we chant, but opportunities come for prayer. And sometimes we think we have to solve things rather than depend on the Lord and be the puppet for the Lord to use us to solve things. So prayer is very, very important. Thank you for stressing it. Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, if you have other questions and other realizations, the text as Dronacharya Prabhu talked about earlier in the purport, it's a very, very, very nice description how the transcendental knowledge and also the comparison that is made to Rasa dance, Krishna's lotus lips, kissing. It's all part of service. There's no difference between the two. So this was quite deep. Who would think about Shastra and then the Rasa dance and relating there's no difference? It shows how Krishna is not like us at all in any kind of way. That we are very, very, very tiny, and Krishna's, lack of a better word, properties, things that and how we relate, because he's absolute, the absolute platform. It's actually wonderful. So that was a eye opener for me when I saw that part of the purport. So anyway, any other discussions?
And another point, Drona, that you mentioned is I really, really liked was the spiritual DNA. That was a really nice point. That we tend to focus a lot on the material DNA, which the biological DNA, lack of a better word, but we forget that we have a spiritual DNA, and that's what takes precedence, over the biological DNA, because we've had so many biological DNAs over so many lifetimes, but the spiritual DNA remained the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like each lifetime, we had a new set of parents, right?
Right.
So every lifetime we had so many biological DNAs, but the spiritual DNAs remained the same each lifetime. And I was really appreciating that point and really thinking about it. Yeah, my goodness. I wonder how many biological DNAs I've had, but my spiritual DNA always remained the same, and so he was constant. So I was appreciating that point, Prabhu. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is it's important for us to remember, that we're eternally connected with Krishna. It's a good way to remember. I don't know when I think the first time I heard this term spiritual DNA, it was from Charu Prabhu. I was listening to a class from him. But it really gets us to think that, I have something much deeper than this material body.
Right.
And that DNA comes from our father. We get our this DNA from our mother and father, our spiritual father. We also get, our spiritual DNA from. And that can't be taken away.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
So there's just one more from this time it's from the text. The text message from Dear Krishna, please accept Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for a nice class as we learn the practice to depend on sincere prayers to Sri Krishna. So there's a question. How to practically not get frustrated with oneself or others when our expectations are not fulfilled from myself or others. So how to keep that mercy factor also in mind in addition to our efforts? That's the question.
That's a very good question. There are two parts to it. There's one about how to not get frustrated with ourselves and how to not get frustrated with others. They say, we should be lenient with others and very strict with ourselves. We a lot of times we don't know what other people are going through. The accumulation of life experiences, karma, etc. There's various situations that go on at home, at work. A lot of times we don't know what's happening actually in another person's life. We only draw conclusions. This person didn't do this, I've always known that they were lazy and they're not committed, and we jump to conclusions very quickly. And that's really just the mind going to a place where it can find satisfaction in finding faults. So with others, we have to, depending on the service that you may be involved in. If it's something that you're working on a project with somebody, or it's a formal service, it's always good to set expectations through communication. This is what I'm able to do. This is what I can do, or what are you expecting of me? From both sides. This is what I'm able to offer, and you hear what the other person also is expecting in return. And that way there can be some clarity. When there's clarity, you can at least come to a point of where you're not speculating as much. When clarity is not there, we make assumptions about one another, and those assumptions start to develop, bad habits. The mind then starts thinking, well, they didn't come because of this, they didn't show up because of this, it's not going to be productive in the long run, and it's not going to help us in our being Krishna conscious. With ourselves, we also have to, we can be a little bit more tough with ourselves, because we have a little bit more control over we have control over our lives. We don't have control over anybody else's life. So we should set this, you know, we should set up, you know, a plan for ourselves. You know, we should be disciplined with ourselves. And if we, for some reason, we don't meet our expectations, we recalibrate, we reevaluate, but we continue to, but maybe we set up too high expectations for ourselves and say, okay, you know, I said I was going to chant 25 rounds. You know, maybe sitting 25 rounds wasn't what I was supposed to do. Maybe I should just focus on the 16 rounds that I'm supposed to be doing. You know, sometimes devotees sit, they overreach beyond their level of qualification. And that's why it's important to have a spiritual master, and mature, experienced devotees around them that have gone through situations so that they can guide you and say, hey, I know you can do a little bit more. Can you, you know, and really talk it over with you. Or if maybe you set some expectations that are too high for yourself, saying, hey, you're going to crash and burn. You know, going to Mangalartik 7 days a week, you know, is going to be too much for you and your family and the way you live, you know, your current lifestyle. Pick 2 days a week and focus on that. Sometimes people, they shoot for the moon. If they don't get there, then it's all or nothing. It's 100% or 0%. And you're either all in or you're all out. And it doesn't have to be like that, because we're uncovering our conditioned nature. You know, let's start at 5% and then move to 6%. And Krishna will actually start opening up the pathway when he sees that we're sincere. In any case, we need to be tolerant. So we have to be tolerant with others, and in control of our emotions and feelings. If people upset us and frustrate us, you know, we need to be tolerant about it. We have to practice, you know, vacho vegam, manasakroda vegam, udara vegam, jiva vegam, you know, the words that we speak, you know, the emotions of anger, you know, our mind's demands, we have to have in control of that. And the way that we control it is through the practice of Krishna consciousness, a sincere practice of Krishna consciousness. I hope that helps. That if I thought about it more, I probably could, and if you know any specific situation, I could probably address it maybe a little bit more in depth. And that was just kind of a general answer. I hope that was sufficient. If anybody else would like to add to any of that,
Yeah, he said, okay, before that, he said, thank you, Prabhu, for such a practical and beautiful answer, many takeaways. So he was satisfied with it. When you were speaking, I was hearing a point made by Bhakti Maharaj, and I see the important point that connects with this part of this question when it comes to others. And you are in a managerial position yourself, so you know how it feels sometimes that when you don't understand what's going on with someone else that you have some expectation of service from, it can be quite frustrating. And that's why Bhakti Maharaj said, a devotee's life should be an open book. You mentioned that years in the 90s, he said this. A devotee's life should be an open book. Means you have to say enough for those that you're working with to understand what you're going through, especially when you can't do some things at certain times. There has to be enough reason given for the person that is related, especially the person that is a coordinator, to understand why it can't be done. And as far as that goes, there were a couple of devotees. One of them recently just left the body, just literally about 2 weeks ago. Pavanapu. He was very, very, very straightforward with what was going on in his life, when he could do service and when he couldn't do service. Why? Because there was never any guessing when it came to him. and he really committed to service also. Even sometimes against, not getting enough sleep, he'll still get up and come. His life was very difficult because he was dealing with a physically impaired child, heavily physically impaired child. And still he took service very, very, very seriously. Very, very good example. But the point is, there was no guessing when it came to him. He knew exactly what was going on. And so it was easier then to work around his schedule and sometimes when he couldn't make it. And there's still some devotees that still don't understand that if you don't open up and say more, the management doesn't understand you. And you may have good excuse, but they don't know. If they don't know, what can they do? They're going to say, you just don't want to settle. And that's what happens. And be president and stuff, so how can that can feel like. And so we were given that, be an open book. Be an open book. We're not talking about secrets, but just what's not happening in your life. Be plain enough with it. There's also another devotee, and I don't, people, they don't want to kind of have their matters talked about so much. But he was also very much like that. Just like Bhavana was, he was also very, 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 very straightforward, talking about what really is happening. And even sometimes his job was threatened. Even that he talked about. Yeah. And then it became necessary to, okay, so this guy needs to buy some time here to convince those that he works with, because this is a problem he's going through. And therefore, we got to a point where now he could or everybody that was dealing with his services could understand him. So the devotee's life should be an open book. Now, this is what Bhakti Agumara told us about. And it makes a huge difference in terms of relating to others. So that's what I wanted to add to it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing that.
Hare Krishna. Any other final points? We are on the top of the hour now, so. Okay. Thank you very much. Oh, Sarvanga Sundar, I just looked up. Damodar, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All
Hare
glories
Krishna.
to Srila
Please accept my
Prabhupada.
humble obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
I'm not sure if I can ask a question. It's like pretty late. But
Go ahead, Prabhu.
the question was that you talked a little bit about transformation, and I always get this question in my mind that am I transforming? Am I moving ahead with anywhere? I'm going in somewhere. I feel like I'm always at square one. Like there is no transfer. Every time like there is some situation, I will always go aggressive or there is like I feel like nothing much is changing. Like I might be chanting for years, 2 years now, trying to be diligent with it, trying to follow some particular routine my life so that I can which was recommended by Srila Prabhupada. But somewhere I feel like I'm still at square one and it's not like nowhere, like still there. So yeah.
Thank you, Sarvanga Sundara Damodar Prabhu. I want to ask permission if I have a train I have to catch at 9:30. If I miss that train, I'll jump. Priksha Prabhu, would you mind?
Yeah, Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'm really sorry.
That's okay. On behalf of all of us, thank you very much for coming on, and please, you can definitely get off so you don't miss your train. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for asking that question. I wish I could. I just have to jump off. Thank you, Priksha Prabhu. If you could
Hare Krishna.
speak to that.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
So, you're not alone. Some people do a self-assessment and then they feel like they haven't moved forward much. But one thing we need to understand is this, that in spiritual life, the services that we do, it's like depositing into a bank. When you have money and you don't spend it and you deposit it in your savings account, your life doesn't really change a whole lot. Because what could be spent to something, you are saving it. Of course, there's good reason to save it, but the fact is you are saving it, and therefore your life hasn't changed a whole lot, not significantly. That's the way sometimes it feels when we do service. it feels like we haven't moved forward. But we have to remember that the more savings we put aside, the richer we become. Even in mundane life, it's like that. So in spiritual life too, the more we serve, the more spiritual credits that we deposit. And that deposit, believe me, that time will come when you have enough. So when you're withdrawing, you can get a lot done with your savings. Spiritual credits do matter a lot. Even if somebody is not able to complete their Krishna consciousness in one lifetime, those spiritual credits get transferred to the next life. And therefore, they start in a situation that's way advantageous compared to others who are coming to Krishna consciousness. And the best part of it is the savings, the spiritual savings can in fact buy us an opportunity to get enough mercy to go back to the spiritual world. So as we serve, and it seems like we're at the same place, we really aren't, because we may be standing in the same place, but actually you're depositing all of the credits. All of the credits are being deposited. It's in a spiritual bank account. And later on, when it comes time that it matters, it really matters, that the transcendental system is going to look at what your efforts are based on your savings, what you've been able to deposit spiritual credits. So it also means for everybody that's listening that the more service that you put in, the more you earn. The less service that you put in, the less that you earn. It's that simple. And so then you make a decision as to what you want to do. The temple is there for everybody. You serve, you don't serve, that's up to you. But obviously, in your case, Damadapu, you're even at the temple, so we know the services that you're putting in, and you're definitely depositing, and don't feel like things are not going well at all, because they are. Your accounts will build up and build up and build up. Not to worry at all. Hare Krishna. Any final questions? All right, buddy, thank you very much for coming on today to hear. It's a nice start of the week, and have a wonderful Krishna conscious rest of your week. Hare Krishna. Panchakalpataru Vishya Kripa Sundibir Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to the Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.